When life changes, sometimes we feel so incredibly sad. For me, it was becoming an empty nester and then giving away all of our dogs at one time. I had been a mom of 7 kids for like 40 years. Dogs had always been a part of our life. And when it was over, I felt so gloomy. I didn't know what my problem was. I knew in my head the right answers. I knew that life changes and it's okay and God's got a different plan for me now. But my heart had a really hard time catching up with my head. Today we're going to continue in the book of Acts. We're not even going to get to a verse in Acts today, but we're going to go through other verses that go along with this lesson that will set up our lesson for next week. Join us today as we talk about what to do when life changes and when we feel so sad. Before we start, I will tell you, Valentine's Day was yesterday. Yeah. Rob and I are those people that we don't celebrate stuff. Like, I'll miss his birthday and he'll miss mine, and unless it were on Facebook, neither of us would even know that we even had birthdays. So we're just not one of those people like, oh, let's celebrate. So yesterday, he calls me and he goes, he brought me flowers in the morning, which was really funny, which was sweet. And I'm like, what are those for? And he's like, well, it's Valentine's Day. Oh, happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, I'm the worst wife in the world, apparently. So then he called later on the afternoon and he said, do you want to go out to dinner? And I'm like, oh, because I know the day before Bible study is always a disaster. And I said, well, why don't we go to dinner at 2? Because we go to bed at like 7. So to be out past, I'm like, 2 is perfect. So we're thinking we are the only ones there. Okay, guess what? Outback Steakhouse in Sun's Surprise. Yeah, 2 o'clock, completely packed. And I'm like, that's how you know you're like getting older, is when you go to dinner at 2, and that's just the way it is, okay? So, but then when we went out, we actually got in, and then when we left, there was probably 20 people waiting at 3 o'clock. I was like, oh, this is why we don't do Valentine's Day. Now we know, okay? So what else happened last week? I decided that I was going to be the grandmother of the year. And now, here's the deal with my grandmother awards. Some of you are really good grandmothers. You actually raise your kids, see them all the time. You raise them. Some of them even live with you. And you are like, the bar is up here for you. My bar is way down here, okay? I'm the most worst pathetic grandparent in the whole world. So my daughter-in-law called and she's like, she goes, can you take the kids on Friday? I'm like, yes, I'll go take them to a movie. So I went to see the Lego Batman movie. Okay. So I figured I would win the Grandmother of the Year award because I did that. Until Donna, most of you know Donna. Yeah. Donna called and she's like, oh, I won't be at Bible study because I'm driving to California to watch my grandchildren for 3 days. Okay. I got knocked off my pedestal so fast, it was just like, never mind, I'm not even going to try that. Okay, it was so cute. I had a friend send this to me. I thought it was really adorable. You can't see it, but it says, my swimsuit told me to go to the gym, but my sweatpants were like, nah, you're good. I thought that was like so cute. Okay. All right, for those of you that are new, you're probably like, does she ever talk about Bible? Yes, we'll start right now. All right, here's what we're going to talk about today. The main part of our lesson is going to be, how do I know that God wants me to go here, or how do I know if he wants me to go there? Like, how do we actually know that? Now, this week I got a little sidetracked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a story about what happened to me last week. Then I will tell you, we'll work through Acts a little bit, and then I'll end with a story, and hopefully we'll tie this whole thing together. Now, here's where I want to start with. Because so many people, God has moved you to new places. And you are having a hard time in this new place where he's given you to go to. For some of you, maybe you have moved. You know God, you love California, you've always lived there, but God has somehow called you to Phoenix. And it's not that you're not happy, but you're just not loving it, and you're just having a hard time. Some of you maybe have prayed for healing for you or for someone else, and it's just not happened, and now you're on this new path, and you're just not really happy where you're at. Some of you prayed for maybe reconciliation for a husband, and you found out, you know what, he's marrying someone else. And now you're on this new path. And you know God's in it, but it's a new path. Some of you prayed for a particular school you wanted to get into, you didn't get into it, and you're now on a new path. Some of you are retiring, and you're just like, la, 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 I've worked all my life, and I love to work, and now you are retiring. Some of you have I was just looking at Betty, sweet little Betty. She took care of her dad for about 10 years, and he just passed away a few months ago, and we talked, and I meant to ask you if I could share this, but I'm going to, and then I'm sure you're okay with it. But she called one day, and she said, this is the hardest part for me. It's because I've always done the same thing. I've taken care of my dad day in and day out, and now he's gone. And I told her, I think that God has just fired you. Okay, and I didn't even mean that mean, but she goes, you know what, that's true. I've been fired from my job. So sometimes you're fired from a job, but you have to know, if you're a follower of Jesus, that God is in it. And so if he's in it, then it's okay. The problem is you're not really okay. And I want you to know I know how you feel about that. Now this is I'm going to tell you my story last week, and it's so minor compared to what some of you are going through. Some of you are dealing with, you've lost people, you've lost children, you've got health problems, you found out you had cancer. Okay, mine is nothing like that. So we have major issues and we have minor issues, and minor, but the problem is with Christians, it doesn't matter whether it's major or minor, we have issues in our life, and then we have struggles. And we have places where we're at in our life that honestly we don't want to be at, and that's exactly what happened to me last week. For those of you that don't know this, I am a mother of 7 children. So we have, for the last 35 years, raised kids. We just became empty nesters a couple months ago. And here's the deal. It's not a bad thing. It's just a really different thing. Then we've had dogs. I've told you my dog stories. My dogs have been terrorizing the neighborhood and getting in fights and killing animals, and it's been horrible. And we've always had dogs. And because of our dogs, we had to get rid of them. And now we have no dogs. And so now we not only have no kids, but we have no dogs to jump on our bed, lick our face, and please don't buy me a dog. I don't want a dog, okay? Oh, we're done with the dog thing out where we live. But it's kind of one of those things like, it's okay, but it's different. And there's something about it that just doesn't feel right. And then we've lived in our house for 25 years. Most of our kids were born there. They were raised there. That's just what it's where we've been. And so we decided one day that we would put our house up on the market. And so now our house is up for sale out of 25 years. And we always thought this was going to be the house that we would die in. That's just, and then things have changed. And so now we are selling our house. And then the biggest part is our business. My husband's this great entrepreneur. He loves to build businesses, and we always have a family business, and our kids work for us, and it all works really great. And he's working on a big deal right now. I think I talked a little bit about it last week, that basically would change the landscape of everything when it comes to that. And it's so last week when I left here, I don't know what happened, but I just was like, I walked away and I was just so sad. And it's not that I know God is leading, and I know he's doing all these different things, and I know he's moving us to sell our house, and I know all those things. But my heart just feels so sad about it, and I could not get over it. So I had 2 back-to-back lunches right after Bible study last week, went home and basically fell apart. Started crying, couldn't really stop, called a friend of mine, which I don't normally call friends. I have to try to be like, you can handle it, Lisa, just pick up the phone and call Jesus. So that's just kind of the way I do things. And so it was really odd that I would actually pick up the phone and call someone. And I called and explained what my feelings were about everything. And she gave me all the right answers. Lisa, God is in control. And Lisa, you know that he's in this. And you know that this is just part of life. And I know all those things. And so I decided to suck it up and try to be nice, about everything and not be stressful to Rob, who's under a lot of stress right now. And so I came home. He came home from work and he said one thing, and here comes the tears. Okay, I cried all night. I could not stop. It was the weirdest thing. Next morning he wakes up, he goes to work, he calls me at 9. He said, hey, he goes, I got a meeting with all the boys, my sons, and we're going to go over our future. And I started crying once again. And I said, Rob, I emotionally cannot handle any of this right now. And he goes, honey, what is wrong with you? He goes, you know all these things. You teach it. You know that God is in control. You know God is moving. You know everything that's going on. And I said, Rob, I know these things in my head. Okay, I know it. I said, I just need time for it to make it to my heart. And I want you to know that I think that that's probably normal. If you are in a place where you don't want to be, and God is moving you, and you know God is moving you, I want to talk this first part about how do you do that when your head and your heart just don't seem to get together. Here's my cute little picture up there. There's a little man. And see, his head is like, he opens his head, and he's got the Bible and the Holy Spirit and the cross and all those things. Like, everything is in his head. And if you come from any kind of a Bible church or you've been a Christian a long time, you know this stuff. But your heart, the loss, the tragedy, the hurt, the changed events that are going on in your life, you just can't get it caught up with your head. And so last week for me, it became kind of just a downward spiral. That's how my life was. And for me, because I do this, I feel sometimes that I'm not allowed to feel things like that. I'm the one that's supposed to be like the cheerleader and saying, everything's fine and God is in control and rah, rah, rah. And I think that if you go to, most of you are Christians and you hang around people maybe that aren't Christians, and you feel like you have to be that strong person to everyone. And sometimes I just can't do that. And last week was the week when I was just like, I can't be that person right now. As much as I know, and I could not break out of this. I can't explain to you. It was the weirdest thing. I just felt so sad and couldn't get over it. So this weekend I read something that really, really, really helped me. And I'm hoping it will help you if you're at that stage in your life too. Philip Keller wrote a book called A Shepherd Looks at Psalms 23. Now, I'm going to have some copies of those in a couple weeks. I ordered them. If you want one, you need to go on christianbooks.com. I think some of them are like $1.99. It's a book you have to have. It's a really short little read, but Philip Keller was a shepherd. And so he wanted to talk about sheep, because Jesus is our shepherd and we are his sheep. But sometimes, he explains, that sheep get cast. Now here's a lamb. Try finding a lamb. Okay, I had to find this in the baby department. I went to Walmart yesterday. I'm like, how easy is it going to be to find a sheep or a lamb? Okay, it's almost Easter. The Lamb of God. Wouldn't you think that would be easy to find in Walmart? Okay, no. Valentine's Day. Hearts, bears, tigers, elephants. No lambs. Here's a lamb. So here's what it is when you and I are, if we're a follower of Jesus, this is us. We're a lamb, and Jesus is our shepherd. But here's what he talks about. He said, we can put that, yeah. A cast sheep is a very pathetic sight. Lying on its back, its feet in the air, it flails away frantically, struggling to stand up without success. So what happens is a sheep will be like, oh, everything's fine, everything, whoop, slip, falls over, and now he's like this. He can't get up. The way his body works, he can't make it get over, and he's stuck. And I think some of us are in that position today. We're just stuck. And that's how I felt last week. I was stuck. I was struggling to understand, God, I don't know where you're taking us. God, I can't see you in the picture. I can't even, it's just blurry right now. And honestly, I'm kind of mad at you, God. And it's like life's changing, and I want you to know that not many people will tell. I got an email from someone the other day, and she said, I feel horrible about everything, and she just tells me all of her stuff, and she goes, but I can't tell anyone that. And I get that, because you want everyone to think you're the super strong Christian and whatever, but here's sometimes you get mad at God, and it's okay. I want you to know that. He goes on to say, sometimes it will bleat a little for help, but generally it lies there lashing about in frightened frustration. If the owner does not arrive on the scene within a reasonably short time, the sheep will die. Now, I realized that with my life last week. I said, you know what, God, if I continue down this spiral, there's going to be a day I'm not going to be able to get up and teach. And if I keep continuing on, my love for you is going to go less and less, and I'm going to get farther and farther and farther away from you, and I don't want to do that. He goes on to say, the way sheep become cast is very significant to us as Christians. As the sheep lies down, it may roll to one side to relax, but when the center of gravity in the body shifts, its feet no longer touches the ground, it becomes helpless. Cannot bring itself back to its feet, gases begin to build up in its stomach, which retard the blood circulation. This alone could bring death, but there is another worry. The cast sheep is an easy prey for any predator. It lies with its spindly legs straight up in the air, helplessly waiting to be found, hoping it will be found by its shepherd. And last week I said, God, you have to find me. You have to get me and you have to take me because this is how I feel. And God, you're the only one that can get me back upright again. And that's what the job of a shepherd is. Many people have the idea that when a child of God fails, when he is frustrated and helpless in a spiritual dilemma, God becomes disgusted, fed up, and even furious with him, and this simply is not so. One of the greatest revelations of the heart of God given to us by Christ is that of himself as our shepherd. He has the same identical sensations of anxiety, concern, and compassion for cast men and women as I had for cast sheep. This is precisely why he looked on people with such pathos and compassion. And somehow reading that last week was such that was just great news for me, and I'm hoping that it will be great news for you, because some of you are here and you're like, nope, love my life, everything's fine. Someday you're going to be taken on a path you're not going to want. And you're going to be okay with it because you know in your head God has taken you there, but you're going to be still sad, and your head and your heart are not going to be in sync on that. I see this because I get emails all the time from people. I actually got this whole wave of emails, and here's what they say. Lisa, I don't think I'm a Christian anymore. Lisa, I don't feel like going to church. Lisa, I don't feel like reading my Bible. Lisa, I don't even feel like God is anywhere. I feel just numb. I just don't even know if I believe any of this stuff anymore. And I realized then that that's what's happening. They're cast. They're just flipped over. And I don't think people mean to get that way. I don't wake up in the morning and go, well, today I'm just gonna be mad at God. Today I'm just not going to like him, and I'm not going to like where I'm going. It doesn't happen that way. You don't mean to flip over. You like being right side up and having everything go fine. But you somehow get into this position and you can't get up. And I don't think, like I said, it's something that we want to do. But here's what I learned when I read Philip Keller's book. I realized that it's God's job as my shepherd to come and rescue me. And somehow that just was so comforting to me. And so then I started reading, okay, God, what's my next step? How can I be assured that you're okay with how I'm feeling and knowing that you're going to get me back up again? And I read Mark 6:31. Now, Mark 6:31 is when the disciples are all busy, and they're crazy busy, and they're running around. But look what Jesus says. And he said to them, come with me privately to a solitary place and let us rest for a while. And see, sometimes you need to give yourself some time to get past the hurt, to get past the heartache, to even get through the change of seasons. For me, I had to really sit there and just and be quiet and just rest and say, God, I don't understand this, but I need you to help me through this. And I needed to know that Jesus was okay with that. And when I read that in the Bible, I'm like, you know what? If he was great with his disciples about it, why wouldn't he be great with me? It goes on to say, Matthew 14:13, John the Baptist was beheaded. John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin and a very good friend. He said when Jesus heard about John, he left there privately in a boat and went to a secluded place. Because I think sometimes you need time for your head to catch up with your heart. Here's my remedy. Here's what I do. God, I'm honest with him and I'm honest with myself. I am cast right now. Can't do anything about it. Can't make myself stop crying. Can't make myself okay with anything you're doing in my life right now. I can't make myself feel love for you right now. I can't make myself feel close to you right now. I don't have that ability in myself to do that. I can't make myself want to read my Bible or make myself want to go to church. And honestly, I can't even make myself love where you're taking me. But God, here's what I do know. I cannot do anything myself. I can't flip over if I wanted to. I just can't. So I'm going to lay here on my back until you come in and flip me over. I need you to rescue me. And see, I think a lot of times we take those times in our life and we go, oh, I just need to take drugs, or I need to drink more, I need to take, I need to go tell all my friends and everything, all the horrible things that are happening in my life. And he's saying, you know what? When you're in that cast position, just reach out to God. It's his job to turn you over. No friend, no drug, no nothing. That's not going to help you get back over. But what is the Spirit of God that lives within you, and he's going to start doing a work, and then one day you'll wake up and you'll be like, I feel so much better. I did this lesson. I cried through it on Thursday, read it back on Friday, cried through it on Friday, cried through it on Monday. Today, I didn't cry. Yesterday was like a breakthrough. It was like, you know what? I see God in it again. It's like he just took me and flipped me over, and I know he will do the exact same thing for you. 1 Peter 1:6 says this, "In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials." Welcome to life. We all suffer trials, we suffer things, and we have sadness in our life, but look at what Peter says in verse 7. "These have come, the trials, so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine." You know what happens when you and I are sheep and we're upside down? It's going to prove if we're going to stick it out. Or if we're going to say, you know what, God, I'm so mad at you. I'm just walking away from everything and no one's going to rescue me. I'm done with this whole Christianity thing. I think it proves that. It proves if our faith is genuine where we're going to go when we don't feel good with our life. I think this is the point we need to get. Verse 8, "Though you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him." And see, I think that's where God wants, even though we can't feel him and see him and understand what he's doing, to say, "God, even though I don't get it and I don't get you right now or where you're taking me or why you've just, fired me from whatever job I'm doing, but God, I'm going to trust you. And I don't know, you're the only place I can go. I have nowhere else to turn." Sometimes I remember Andy Stanley saying this, if you want to unfollow Jesus, where would I go? I mean, it terrifies me. There's no place for me to go. He's it. So you know what? I'm going to take the times in my life when I'm upside down and I'm cast, and I'm not going to walk away from my faith. I'm just going to stay there until God comes in as my shepherd and rescues me. Now, here's the key to this whole thing, is that the disciples rested and Jesus got away, and those were all really good things, but they didn't stay that way very long. Because here's our thing as a follower of Jesus. We're on a mission. We have to tell people about Jesus. We cannot stay cast for very long. We can stay long enough to rest. We can stay long enough to try to figure it out and work through the problem and whatever. But if you've been cast for 5 years, you might want to get some help. Okay, because Jesus needs us on task and on mission. So he got solitude. He took the disciples. He said, "Get away and rest for a while, but then you got to come back. And let's get busy." And I think that rest is just long enough to get our heads and our hearts back in sync so that we can look out and say, "Okay, now I get it. I'm on this new road. I'm on a new road being a mother of empty nesters. I'm a new mother that maybe moved to a different house. I'm a mother that just may be completely different. Our business landscape, everything in our life, but I'm okay with it now." And so that's what happens when we have to realize that he is just a good shepherd. There's a purpose and a mission for us in our life, and we have to wait and trust God to get us back on track so we can continue that. Don't stay in that cast position for very long. Fair? Whew, all right. With that, we need a joke. 3-year-old walks over to a pregnant lady while waiting and says, "Why is your stomach so big?" And she says, "Well, I'm having a baby." And he goes, "Is that baby in your stomach?" And she goes, "Well, yeah." And he goes, "Well, is it a good baby?" And she goes, "Well, it's a very good baby." And he goes, "Well, why did you eat it?" I thought about that. I'm like, isn't that cute? Like, that would be what a 3-year-old would think. Like, you just ate your baby. Like, that makes so much sense to me. I thought it was cute. All right, I hope today was very, very helpful and encouraging to those of you that might be going through what I went through. I know sometimes life can feel really sad when things change, but we also don't want to stay in that sad place forever, because we have to realize that God has just something new for us, and we should be excited about that. So, hope that helped you today. Have a really good day.